Are you tired of hearing about the Nikon ZF, full-frame mirrorless camera capable of 45.7 megapixels stacked full-frame sensor, all for $19.99? All to be told, it's not going to happen, or at least the specs aren't what we thought they would be. Well, Nikon Direct Japan had the camera listed on the website earlier today. So what's going on? Well, stick around after this short break for all the details. But first, please do me a favor. Follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, but most importantly, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, it really does help this channel grow, and it also helps keep you up to date on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. This has to be one of the strangest stories I've covered. The Nikon ZF full-frame mirrorless camera was to be announced today, November the 2nd, 2023. Then it was delayed. Then it was too good to be true, and now it looks like it's back as a potential camera, as it was spotted earlier today on Nikon Direct Japan. I can't help but laughing at this one. This has to be the strangest story that I've covered since starting this channel. A camera that's on again, off again. A camera for under $2,000 that has a stacked sensor with a resolution of 45.7 megapixels, but only a single SD card slot. It just seemed too good to be true, and not only is Nikon Rumors covering it, but we've got Sony Alpha Rumors as well. And speaking of Nikon Rumors, in response to these screenshots from Nikon Direct Japan, maybe after all the camera was scheduled to be announced today, August the 2nd, and was pulled at the last moment. I personally didn't see the listing. And this aligns directly with what Andrea said of Sony Alpha Rumors. In his video earlier this week, he said that the Nikon ZF is delayed. It won't be happening on November the 2nd. It's going to be delayed by days or weeks, but it's definitely happening this month. So clear as mud, right? I mean, at this point, all we know is that the Nikon ZF is a camera. It's going to happen because we've seen it leaked on a website. And we've seen this happen before. Websites will refresh, they'll accidentally leak some information, and maybe that's Nikon just a way of letting us know, hey, wait a minute, I know you're hearing all sorts of things about this camera. It's coming. We do have this camera, but in terms of what it's going to have, in terms of specifications, well, I guess it depends on who you talk to. Nikon Rumors says that the latest tip I received indicates a 24 megapixel sensor. And do you notice how it doesn't say anything about a stacked sensor or anything about price? And back to the specs, dual memory cards as opposed to a single SD card slot. We don't know what types of memory cards these are. CF Express Type B, V90 SD cards, it's just hard to say. Oh, and the announcement is supposed to be held later in August or in September. And that was actually my projection, that we would see this camera most likely in September before October, because most major camera announcements, well, they don't happen in August. And yes, I know that is a rarity. The Sony a7S III at the end of August in 2020, and we also had the Canon EOS R5 at the end of July 2020, but 2020 was a rather strange year, wasn't it? And speaking of strange, Sony Alpha Rumors specifications for the Nikon ZF, well, they're a little bit more aggressive. A 45 megapixel stacked full-frame sensor, a single SD card, all for $19.99. All for $19.99, a single SD card slot. See, I think somebody put a comment similar to this down below. You could take a Corvette and Corvette engine and you could put it in one of those subcompact cars. You could definitely do it. And it wouldn't make a lot of sense. You wouldn't go anywhere, it would be a death trap, and you'd probably blow out the transmission every time you went for a ride. It's the same thing here. You could take a 45 megapixel stacked sensor and put it in a camera with just a single SD card slot. And even if, and this is a big if, that it supports V90 SD cards, the latest I know of is an Angelbird V90 card that has a maximum sustained write speed of around 260 megabytes per second. Think about that for a minute. In terms of, well, let's see, 45.7 megapixels, you're shooting not 20 frames per second, maybe 10 frames per second. No, not even 10. You'd be lucky to get 5 to 7 frames per second shooting lossless RAW. In fact, no, let's see. So let's say somewhere between 50 and 70 megabytes per second. Let's say 50, and we're not doing JPEG. That would go into 265 times. So at the very best you could hope for is 5 frames per second continuous shooting. It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm pretty excited by this, and I do have the pre-order links right here, and they've been around for a couple of minutes now. Let me explain the smart pre-order links. Because the specs are all over the place for this camera, we're supposed to be getting a body, we're also supposed to be getting 2 kit packages, and I wouldn't be surprised if Adorama and B&H have their own kit packages available, including camera bags, storage, regardless of whatever that might be, or other items. So if on the day of announcement, whenever that might be, if you're interested in pre-ordering the Nikon ZF, what these links to Adorama and B&H will do is they'll provide you with every single kit package. So once the embargo is lifted, you can go ahead and get yourself in the queue a little bit quicker. It'll list off every single item. So go ahead and copy these. I've also got them in the description down below, and put them in your browser, save them in your favorites. And what that will do is get you a little bit, not quicker, it'll get you into the queue a little sooner, so that way you can get your camera shipped a little bit sooner. Now, it really depends on what the specifications are for this camera. If we follow Sony Alpha rumors, it's going to be a powerhouse. It's going to be a sports car inside the sensor, and then you're going to have these tiny little tires representing the storage. Whereas if we look at Nikon rumors, and what they're saying is dual card slots makes an awful lot more sense, especially at around $1,999 at 24 megapixels. That certainly seems to be a bit more plausible than the dream team that put together the specs for the one on Sony Alpha rumors, to have a stacked sensor. And you know what? Sony Alpha rumors did say that it comes from multiple sources, that and from somebody who had the camera in their hand, that it is going to be 45.7 megapixels. And if that's the case, I would assume it's going to be the same sensor from the Nikon Z7 Mark II. But what do you think? I'm still laughing over this one, and I'm probably going to be laughing just as much while I'm editing it, because this one just seems to be so silly. And earlier today, when I saw the other specs for the Nikon ZF with 24 megapixels, I just thought, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to touch it. But this time around, I just couldn't hold back. We've got leaked images from Nikon Direct Japan. So that's something credible, that we at least have the name being validated, but we don't have any specifications. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me go and take a look at the site just to make sure things haven't changed since I started recording. Do we have any specifications for the Nikon ZF according to those leaked images? And nope, some Japanese. Let's take a look at the next image. I don't see any specifications. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. So I wonder if this will be the camera story of the year, the most interesting story of everything else, not because of the specifications, but because, well, the specs have been all over the place. The data's gone back and forth. Specs have gone back and forth. So I'm really curious to see what will result. It's kind of like one of those cartoons I remember seeing where you saw this big scary monster going, "Rrrr," and then all it was like an ant that was behind a light, or the light was behind the ant, shining it upwards, making the ant look really, really huge. And I sense here, with all the leaked specifications coming from Nikon rumors and Sony Alpha rumors, that the actual camera might be a whole lot less, well, it might be a little bit more disappointing, and that's my fear. But if you want to stay up to date on all the news and rumors regarding the Nikon ZF, then go ahead and subscribe, and make sure you choose all notifications. And by subscribing, it really does help get this channel recognized, so thank you in advance. And for all those minor news and rumor stories, all those stories that aren't quite big enough to, well, have their own separate video, including pricing information, then go ahead and subscribe to me on X, formerly known as Twitter. And one last thing, if you could do it, it really, really helps this channel out. If you're thinking of purchasing any camera gear, lens accessories, or whatnot, then go ahead and please, if you're planning on buying from Adorama and B&H, use these affiliate links here, because I get anywhere from 2 to 12% back. I got to tell you, that really does help this channel grow. On the other side of things, though, if you're close to a local camera store, then please reach out to your local camera store, because they need your business as well. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.